You are now listening to the Baseball Fam Podcast, brought to you by BaseballFam.com, where we talk America's pastime, college and Major League Baseball. Here's your host, the founder of BaseballFam.com and shit ball players do, Shane Sully.
Yo, what's up, Baseball Fam? Shane here, and we are back for another episode. We made it. We haven't died yet, which is great news. You guys are still listening to this thing, which is awesome. Thank you for that. Before we get started, because we had some interesting things happen this week that I am so excited to shove my opinions down your throats about. Real quick plug, it would be super awesome if you guys are still listening, which clearly the numbers say you are. It would be more than awesome if you guys could take literally 30 seconds and just close your app right now, wherever you're listening to this, and drop us an iTunes review. That would be sick. Now, if you're listening on Spotify or anywhere else, I get it. That's totally cool. But iTunes reviews are awesome. We used to dominate those charts, and now we just don't. We don't. So iTunes reviews and subscribes and all that jazz really, really helps. So that would be sweet. Thank you guys in advance for that. So this week in baseball, we've got, let's see what we've got to get to today. We've got 2 new baseball rules. That sounds really weird when you say it like that, but the competition committee agreed upon 2 new rule changes for next year, and I've got some thoughts on that, and you guys might be able to predict my thoughts by now, but that's okay. We've got into a sweet conversation on Twitter about Hall of Famers that are currently playing. I asked who the most likely Hall of Fame locks were among active players, like who could retire today or who could go 0 for the rest of their career or never win another game and would be Hall of Fame locks. So I will give you guys the answers there. That was an interesting convo. We've got the NCAA cracking the whip down on softball teams. They have banned a certain something before the playoffs start. I will give you my opinion on that as well. So let's start with these 2 new baseball rules. Now, anytime, I find it hilarious, anytime anyone mentions anything about changing the game, adding this, adding that, tweaking this rule, whatever, everyone just gets their panties in a bunch and they flip out before they even use their heads and start to think about the pros and the cons of whatever it is we're talking about. It happens every time. Now I get it. When there was something like replay happening, when they wanted to put replay into baseball, that's a pretty radical change. So there I can understand some radical thoughts and opinions and maybe some disagreement and some resistance. Here, we've got 2 new changes, and I'm feeling okay about them. Number 1 is they want to eliminate the need to throw 4 pitches to execute an intentional walk. Meaning, if you want to walk Miguel Cabrera, all you do is you turn around and tell the umpire you want to walk Miguel Cabrera. Then he trots his ass down to first base. Simple enough. And people are... Now, all of these rules seem to have one thing in common. Rob Manfred has been obsessed with increasing the pace of play, shortening baseball games. And again, in 2016, despite them putting a clock on mound visits and everything else they've done, it's not working. It's going backwards again. For some reason, games in 2016, I know we're only like 45 games in or something like that, but games this year are taking too long. I don't want to say too long because you guys are going to jump down my throats about how long is too long, but they're extending. The games are getting longer, it seems weird to me after all of this that they've done that the games can still be getting longer, but they are. So that's what all these rules are for. So to eliminate a 4-pitch walk, I mean, is it going to save 60 seconds of gameplay? I don't know. But I think even more importantly than the actual length of the game is keeping viewers engaged in a game. Okay, so if you've got the casual baseball fan that's watching a game on television, a 4-pitch intentional walk might be a good opportunity for them to change the channel, right? I mean, I guess is that part of the thinking? That makes a little bit of sense. I'm obviously not a huge fan of it. You guys have to understand that there's a difference. We have to find a happy medium between keeping the old school game and keeping the game relevant. I like baseball too. So everyone chill out. When I talk about the pros behind these rules, I'm not selling out. But I understand that in order to keep the game of baseball relevant, which money's going up, viewers are going down, that's a bubble that's going to pop at some point if it doesn't get fixed. I like the game of baseball so much that I want to see it live. I don't know about you guys. So when we start talking about these changes, I'm coming with an open mind and trying to decide whether the risk is worth the reward or whether the gain is worth the loss, if you see what I'm saying. So if we're going to keep people more engaged and maybe, I don't know, if we're going to shorten the games, I don't know if it'll shorten the game, but if that's what you're thinking, if we're going to shorten the game and keep viewers and keep people more engaged by eliminating the 4 pitches on intentional walk, are you kidding me? Who cares, dude? Like, I'm looking at my Twitter mentions the other day when we wrote about this, when this came out, and it's the same thing every time. You guys are a bunch of robots, honestly. A bunch of robots on Twitter say the same shit every single time, regardless of what the rule is. Oh my God, baseball is fine the way it is. Why are we changing the game? Are you shitting me, dude? Like, oh, it's part of the game. Really, dude? 4-pitch intentional walk is part of the game? Like, do you start sweating when a guy goes to intentionally walk somebody? Like, are those 4 pitches so exciting? But, dude, what about the chance that the pitcher overthrows the catcher? Do you realize how often that happens? Do you realize that happens like 0.0001% of intentional walks results in an overthrow? And do you realize that 0.0001% of the time that result in an overthrow, a runner moves up from second to third base? And that's what happened? Really? That's what you want to hold on to? I mean, I get it if you don't like the change and you don't think it'll shorten the game or keep people engaged. That's one thing. But to say, oh my God, we're ruining baseball because we're getting rid of that's just stupid. Come on, let's use our brains here for a second. That's dumb. So we've settled that. Now, the other rule is they want to raise the strike zone from the bottom of the knee to the top of the knee. This one's interesting. I'm not sure where this comes from. And I just... without asking Manfred himself, if I can just assume that this is another ploy to speed up the game, I think it's a fact that when more balls are put in play, the game goes faster. So maybe by raising the strike zone 2 inches, they are going to predict that there will be more balls put in play because pitchers won't get that strike call below the knees. So strikes are going to be better pitches to hit at the bottom of the zone. I'm just assuming, I have an educated guess that that's their thinking on doing that because I don't see any other reason to do that. Now, I can understand the more resistance on something like this. However, let me tell you why you guys are overreacting, like always, but let me tell you why this particular situation, you're overreacting. Take a look at your knee right now, okay? Not if you're driving, but if you're sitting down, look at your knee and tell me how many inches you see between the bottom of your kneecap and the top of your kneecap. Please. Okay, so I'm going to look down at mine. I'm going to say 2 inches, 3 inches maybe. Okay, so I'll give you guys 3. We'll settle on 3 inches. So by raising the strike zone 3 inches, do you really think that you're going to notice a difference during the game? Now, you would notice a difference if they made 2 to 3 inch incremental changes in the strike zone if we had the Robo Umpire 5000, which I hate to tell you guys, it is coming. It's a matter of time. So I can't wait to have the episode about the Robo Umpire 5000 because it's coming. But when we have human umpires like we do now, the human margin of error is well around that 2 to 3 inches that they're trying to raise the strike zone. So are you really going to notice a difference with them raising the strike zone 2 inches? I don't know. Guys are still going to miss calls. They miss calls 2 inches off the plate. So, I mean, the strike zone is still inside corner to outside corner of the plate, but you see strikes called that are 2 inches off the plate. It's the same shit at the bottom of the strike zone. The bottom of the strike zone is harder for an umpire to see. Up and down is hard, okay? An umpire can see the inside corner of the plate because that's where he sets up, and he can see the top of the zone because that's where around where his eye level is. It's the bottom of the strike zone and the outside corner are where the majority of calls are missed. So by them trying to raise the strike zone 2 inches from the bottom of the knee to the top of the knee, you're not going to see a fucking difference. Just like everything else we complain about, and then they implement it, and you're like, 2 months later, you're like, I forget about it. How about the catcher collisions you guys are all bitching about? a year ago or 2 years ago? Does anyone sit and watch a baseball game like, man, I really wish there was a sick catcher collision going on here? No, there's not. But guess what? Now you get to watch Buster Posey every single day. He's not sitting on the couch with a broken collarbone anymore. So that's how I feel about those two rule changes. Chill out. We'll see how they play out. Now, it's not in effect yet. I guess I don't know how this works, but the competition committee, whatever the hell that is, they agreed on it the other day. Now it has to go to the playing rules committee or something. I don't know who makes up who on any of these lists, but if the playing rules committee agrees on those two rules, then they could go into effect as early as the beginning of next season. So the beginning of 2017 season, you might see 2 inches higher strike zone, and you might not see 4-pitch intentional walks, which is interesting to me that that's the process on how they get approval on this. They do not have to get approval from the players. They don't have to get approval from the Players Association, MLBPA, nothing. It's competition committee, playing rules committee, rule. So I don't know who makes up what. I'm not into the politics of baseball. I don't know. But, I mean, I'm just assuming that it's going to pass. So I guess we'll find out if you guys had actual beef to bitch about it or not. So, but next, we had an awesome conversation on Twitter the other day about Hall of Fame locks. Like which of the active players right now is an absolute first ballot lock for the Hall of Fame? Saw some interesting answers, and I saw one particular answer that the more I thought about it, I did not like it. And I pissed a lot of people off, which I do a lot. But this one was really bad because so everyone was throwing out names like Miguel Cabrera, Clayton Kershaw. I saw some Victor Martinez in there. I mean, guys like this, like who else was there? Yadier Molina. And I know I'm forgetting some of the names that came up. So this isn't really about that. I want to talk about the one answer I disagreed with. People were saying probably the most common answer, because he's on his retirement tour right now, is David Ortiz. Now, if you take a look at the guy's career, common sense would tell you that, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. And he I don't even know which way I want to sway in this. Yes, he probably will be a Hall of Famer. But there's just one issue. The conversation was not about who's going to get in the Hall of Fame. It was about who are the absolute first ballot no-doubters. Well, that's really what the conversation started to get interpreted into. So that's when it got interesting, because I started to think about it more, and I decided that David Ortiz is not on the top of the list of no-doubt Hall of Famers. He's just not. And it's not even so much to do with his numbers. So the problem with David Ortiz is, number one, in 2003, the report came out that he had tested positive for PEDs. He failed the PED test. Now, that was supposed to be an anonymous test, and I guess the results leaked, and someone leaked his name. And there was like 103 I read or something, 103 other players that were on the list, but I guess only a couple names came out, and it was David Ortiz, but it was not like a MLB done, I don't know all the politics or the details behind it, but he did not get suspended, but word came out that he failed the PED test. That right there alone, just the suspicion alone, not whether he's guilty or got suspended or not, the suspicion alone is going to cause the voters to say, on his first year at least, no chance David Ortiz is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer with the PED suspicions. Now, I don't think I don't know. I'm not going to say whether I think he did or didn't or is not. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant to this conversation. So that's strike number one. Now, strike number two is that David Ortiz is a designated hitter. And to us, that's not a problem. To the Hall of Fame voters, that is a huge problem. Let me point you to a specific somebody that I brought up. I don't think I was the first one to bring this up, but you've got to remember that there is a certain Hall of Fame eligible designated hitter who was one of the best hitters that most of us have ever seen if you're above the age of like 23. And that is Edgar Martinez. So I started to take a look at the numbers and comparing Edgar Martinez and David Ortiz. And I decided that there is 110% no shot in hell that David Ortiz is a first ballot, no doubt Hall of Famer. I'm not even sure. The precedent has yet to be set on whether he will get in on the second, third, whenever he'll get in, because Edgar Martinez is still not in the Hall of Fame, which is absurd. I highly encourage you, especially if you're like under the age of 25, to take 5 minutes and go on Fangraphs or go on baseballreference.com, whichever you prefer, and do some research on the career of Edgar Martinez, because it even amazed me when I went back and looked. Let me just give you a couple tidbits. This dude, over 18 seasons in the big leagues. I think Ortiz is on 20 right now. 18 seasons in the big leagues for Edgar Martinez. The dude had a slash line of 300, 400, 500. That's insane. So the dude had over a 300 career batting average. I don't have it up in front of me because you guys know I'm never prepared when I do this. I should definitely have these numbers up. But he has like a 315 career average. His on-base percentage was over 400, and his slugging percentage was over 500. So that 300, 400, 500 slash line it really doesn't exist. I mean, it's very rare, and that is a Hall of Fame career. So I think we can all, regardless of how good you think, I think we can all look at Edgar Martinez's statistics and say that is absolutely a Hall of Famer. 18 seasons. Now, unless you have a problem with the DH. From what I've seen, most people don't have a problem with the DH. I think it's the older voters that might have a problem with the DH because, us, millennials, young guys, I don't give a shit about your glove. I don't care. If you're David Ortiz and you've done what you've done for Boston in the playoffs and not in the playoffs and you've got 500 career homers, I don't give a shit if you even own a glove. I don't. It really shouldn't matter. The impact you're having on your team, regardless if he had a glove on, it's stupid. So you're telling me even if David Ortiz went out there and he had an error every single game of his career, he wouldn't be a Hall of Famer? No, that's stupid. He still would. So if he played first base, you wouldn't give a shit about his stats. Why does it matter that he doesn't play first base? Why does it matter he doesn't play a position? It's stupid. Edgar and David Ortiz are definitely both Hall of Famers. However, hate to burst your guys' bubbles, but it's 2016. So in 2021, David Ortiz will not get elected to the Hall of Fame. I'm just telling you. Unless something dramatic changes over the next couple of years, it's just not going to happen. It's definitely not going to happen until Edgar gets in, so you guys better start hopping on the Edgar train. So that was just a super interesting conversation we had. But things are kind of changing with the Hall of Fame voters. You noticed last year, before the Ken Griffey Jr. ballot, they announced that they eliminated the votes of like some of the older dudes. So like some of the older voters that didn't really watch or weren't really involved in the game anymore, they took their votes away. So I think you saw a difference in the votes now that the average age or the median age of Hall of Fame voter is dropping. So I think if that keeps happening over the next 5 years, things might change for Ortiz. I don't know. But with the state of things now, he's not getting in. So enough about that. NCAA Softball. Women's College World Series is right around the corner. I think they're playing the regionals right now. And I don't know about you guys, but I am legitimately a fan of college softball. And I just became more a fan of college softball. Let me tell you why. So the NCAA cracked down last week. I forget who the original school was that was in the story. It was some low-level Division I school, but it came out that the NCAA told them that they can no longer have props in their dugout, which is awesome. So they said that they're not going to allow, starting with the regionals or the super regionals and the World Series and the regionals, teams are no longer allowed to have these silly props in their dugouts. And we posted the story and all of the pictures that were going around with the LSU softball team and their Finding Nemo blow-up dolls and Iron Man masks and all this shit. Apparently that's been a rule forever because they cited the rule, but now I guess they're going to start enforcing it. So, sorry girls, you can't have any more stuffed animals kicking it with you in the dugout. And, the response on Twitter to that was pretty interesting too. A lot more passionate than I thought it was going to be, especially from the ladies, the softball fans and players. I even saw the phrase "make softball